soft like flower dew. Sure, I know that your stem has a melody seem to form inside of you. The flow of your body drips soft like flower dew. Sure, I know that your stem has a story.
Hi, I'm Effie Barker. We are right here in downtown. When you say we're not going away with these issues, what are those issues? Good evening. Welcome to the special edition of I'm Effie Barker.
Welcome to Everybody Images. I'm a host, Lyra Taylor. Merry Christmas.
That was my daughter, Lyra Taylor. She is 3 years old and turning 4 next month. She is British Filipino American citizen, and she's been very interested in participating in this show ever since. She'd often come to my study when I edit the show, and today I've decided to put her on and introduce the show.
Right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, all, and wherever you are in the world, welcome. Our guest for today is born in Hawaii and raised in Los Angeles, California. She is a commercial actress. She initially moved to Italy on her 30s, and 20 years ago, she moved here in the UK. And she now lives in London with her partner.
Miss Shirley Cook Brooks. In this episode, Shirley will talk to us about
The things that attracted her to the UK, and what are the things that she missed in California? Did anybody treated you different because you're American? Or what are the advantage of being American and the disadvantage of being American here in the UK?
That's a good question. Lots of disadvantages because one, you're in someone else's country. The US is not seen as a particularly good overall as a particularly good influence on other countries at this point in history. I think overall UK, meaning British people, not so much the other, like me, immigrants that have come here from Europe, but overall the British resent a lot of the American, excuse me, American influence that has come into the UK, and rightly so. I mean, you know, because we're American, we're used to lots of different influences in the United States because what does it mean to be American? We're all immigrants. So we're very accepting. The UK, they have these, hundreds, if not maybe 1,000-year-old traditions in certain things, and they're slowly dying away, and a lot of it is not only US influenced, I think, but other countries, just like every other country in the world. Those older traditions are slowly dying away, and I think they resent that. So in that respect, uh, you get some anti-American feeling. I have never had. I'm trying to think if anyone said anything to me about being an American. I never have, but I do know overall, like I do remember some instances where friends have said offhand things about Americans, but then it's always well, you're not included in that, Shirley. You're not, I'm not talking about you. So to me, it doesn't bother me. But like I said, I haven't had any in my face anti-Americanism like I've heard some other Americans have. And I've also worked in two corporations here, two multinationals, which were both originally American, still American corporations, Universal and Microsoft.
Mhm.
So, there were lots of Americans in there. And I think if you were anti-American, it would show up working in something like that because you really had to liaise with lots of different people from all over
Mhm.
the world.
Isn't that being passive when they make some comments about certain race and then they would say like, oh, of course not you. No, because you're a friend. So because I'm friend, that doesn't I'm not included with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And see, I'm really forgiving on those things because I see it as people just talk.
Mm,
They don't they're frustrated. People don't mean what they say 90% of the time. It's
mm,
what it's what they don't say is what you need to be worried about. So when somebody says an offhand comment like that to me, yeah, it doesn't bother me.
mm.
Doesn't bother me at all because I know that they're just venting a frustration, and they're not they're not trying to be rude or anything like that. So I don't
Mhm.
take it personally. I don't
Right.
take a lot of things personally.
With this resentment against American influence and this not very accepting
Hmm.
of this big Americanism, um, and they're keeping their old traditions and they're frustrated because it's being influenced by the Americans. What do you say of that? Is that something bad to accept the new things and just want to keep the old things?
You mean to not accept the new things and keep the old things?
Yes.
I
Is that
think
a bad
that
thing or not?
no, I think um I mean good, bad, that's black and white. I try not to do these
Mm-hmm.
black and white things. Everything is a shade of gray. It's not a bad thing at all. I mean, the whole reason I like living here is because they have these amazing traditions that we don't have. You know,
Mm-hmm.
these ceremonies that lots of time the actual probably the true meanings have been lost through history, so they become these quaint things that you watch going, "How strange," but,
Mm-hmm.
quirky things. How fun to watch because I don't know why they still do it. It has no meaning anymore, but it's just it's just fantastic that they still do, that they still keep these time-honored traditions,
Right.
and
But
ceremonies.
yeah, I'm just trying to understand what is this resentment against Americans? Is it because you think there is some jealousy in it? I mean, I still don't get it. Why are they resenting Americans? And yes, that is true because I've seen that too.
Um, I'm sure that at some point there is, in some instances, there is some envy. Because I mean, we're pretty brash people, aren't we? We're
Mm,
raised that way from day one to be individual and to speak your mind and to be at the forefront of things and try to be a leader. Whereas they're much more of fall in line and mustn't grumble and do what everybody else does. And I know a couple of my friends have actually said to me, our culture, it really resents people that that try to get ahead. Um, Now that's just one or two people, but I know some people do feel that way.
mm,
So it's a strange thing.
mhm.
So yeah, I think for that, I don't know about a jealousy. I think maybe it's an envy that we were raised that way, and so they take offense at it.
Right. And there's this also thing of like us, we're very open-minded. We're just free-spirited. We express it, we say what we think and we say what we believe and how we feel. But sometimes you'd feel like oh this being reserved and and there is this making it sound like so negative and a problem when you complain. Why does it make it sound bad to complain? If you see something wrong, you would complain. And there's right this they say I heard this often like get on, just get on and never complain and never explain. What is that?
Yeah, that is so, so true. I have to tell you about an incident with my ex-husband and his father and the father's girlfriend. We
He's
were at a
British.
restaurant. British, yeah, he was British, very British. We were in a restaurant, and his father's girlfriend happened to get the gammon, which for us Americans, it's basically ham, right, with
Mm,
pineapple on it. And she ate a couple of bites, and she said, I don't think this gammon is very good. I think it's off, meaning
mm,
it's
mm.
going bad. And of course, me, I said, oh my God, don't eat it. Send it back, take it back. Let's call the waiter over. And she says, no, 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 I don't want to make a fuss. They might get
Yeah.
angry. And I thought, what? That was the first that I had encountered of this mustn't grumble and yeah, fall in, don't complain, don't explain. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. You wouldn't send back rancid food?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And yeah,
this
they say
person
it's a
told me.
spoiled Americans
That's it. That's it. And they'll say, "Oh, demanding Americans,
and rude
demanding
and
Americans."
abrasive.
Yeah, and abrasive. Yeah, but I've sent back so many things. My partner, who is also British now, he does the same, but he does it in a very um, not kind, but he does it in a very British way, where he'll
Mm.
explain why he's sending it back, and they'll kindly take it.
Yeah, it's very polite and
Very polite.
cordial. Mm. But your ex is British and your partner now is British as well.
Mhm.
And the first time you migrated here, you're coming from Italy, did you
Yes,
say that?
yes,
Okay. And the reason why you moved to the UK is because you met your English partner.
exactly. And I actually gave him the choice because I was pretty much done with living in Italy at that time.
Mm,
So I had said, well, we could always move back to California because
mm,
I was actually thinking of doing that. And the trouble is I had the movable career. I
mm,
was at the time a yoga teacher. I could get a job pretty much anywhere as an
mm,
executive assistant.
mm,
So he said, you've got the movable career. You've got to come here. And I thought, well, yeah, he's right. So that's the reason I moved.
mm.
And he couldn't speak Italian, so he couldn't move to Italy.
I see. Okay. Well, what has been the best thing about the UK for you?
That, the best thing. Um, I think maybe that it has opened my eyes on how important traditions are, that and that it's given me a great base to explore things, to explore different things. Um, I couldn't have been an actor in Italy, but I can be an actor here and in the United States, so that's a great thing for me. It's the the industry is much more aligned, obviously, with UK actors since we all speak the same language, sort of, as opposed to
Mhm,
United States and Italy. So that's a great thing for me. It's closer to my family. Um,
mhm.
yeah, and
What about the worst thing?
that the UK has given me,
Mhm,
uh, probably that I'm used to, honestly, what I think is a lower quality of life, a lower standard. I've
Oh,
lowered I've lowered my standards a bit in terms of housing, um, in terms of even the variety of food that I eat. Because being in California, as you know, I mean, you are there's a lot of different cuisines there that you can eat. And I know a lot of people here think, oh, there's so much fast food in the US. And that is very true. But that's only because you're not looking for good food. So I can't tell you how many times here I do complain about the fruit. Like I always say, the fruit goes from unripe to rotten or moldy. There's probably an hour window of where it's ripe. I'm exaggerating, of course, but sometimes I feel that way because of the weather. So, yeah, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of that. And uh, um, I, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I
Did you
really do like living here, so I don't know what's real horrible other than some of those physical things.
the comforts of life that you
Yeah, they're not,
so
that's perfect. The
yeah.
There are not as many comforts here for me
Hmm.
that I had in California, in the United States.
So before that's really I had a bit of reaction what you said because that is really very powerful from among that I've heard in the stories. Although kind of like a lot of people agree to that, but to say that you had lowered your standards, that must have been frustrating.
It was, it was, and I should say it is because even now, sometimes I get frustrated. Most of the time, no, because then you juxtaposition it with the good things. And the good things still outweigh the bad. And I think that's, as an
Mhm,
expat, that's always what you have to look at. Do the good things still outweigh the bad? I
mhm,
think not even as an expat, just even if you've moved somewhere, anywhere, and even in the US, you always have to weigh that up, don't you?
mhm,
So, yeah, but overall, living wise, comfort wise,
mhm,
that was a perfect word, comfort. Comfort wise, I've had to lower my standards. I'm colder here. The houses are draftier. They're smaller. They're because they're old. I mean, I live in a Victorian. I- They're they're not made for modern living. So yeah, all those things. And the first time I moved here, not in this flat, but when I was living with my ex-husband in his flat, they still had the separate taps. Uh, for Americans who I don't know if anybody has ever had separate taps,
yeah,
but
okay.
how how difficult is that to get, they don't have what is known as they call them mixer taps. I don't even know what they're called in the United States anymore. But
Right.
one tap to get hot water and cold water, so you get a nice warm mixture if you need it. Oh my god. That's like
I really had a funny story about that too. But yes, it's exactly the same. I was like, oh, why on earth is
I
it?
haven't seen these since I was,
Mm,
3 years old.
mm. Right.
So,
So that's all these things, did you kind of appreciate more the life that you had in America?
yes. Yes, and I actually, for years, even here, I questioned if I'd made the right decision.
Oh, did
If
you?
I, yeah, yeah, I thought, should I move back? And I actually had it in my mind. I'll move back in 2 years. And then 2 years came, and I thought, I give myself another 2 years. I'll move back in another 2 years. And I kept doing that. I'll move back, I'll move back. But then you build a life, you get friends, you have jobs or interests, things you love, you
Mhm.
have fun, it's exciting. Yeah, and then pretty much before I knew it, it was 20 years.
My tongue is really like I don't know my accent anymore because I like I said, I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I still carry four different dialects from the Philippines. I speak my regional language to my daughter, and
Yeah, I heard that.
right, and then I teach her with Tagalog so that she can converse with Filipinos, and then pretty much a lot of my values are really Filipinos, but then I can identify myself a lot more as an American. And but I'm not there on two different places. I'm in a place where like it's really different for me. But then I'm not really moving back to the States very soon. So what am I doing? So I said, Effie, just give up. Just adapt, like you said, to fit in. So now I'm starting already like, okay, how do they speak this? And it's not really difficult. So eventually I'm so really my ex-husband, he's American, and would be laughing at me because now he would say like literally, because I would talk. And then when I went back for a visit, I couldn't speak the word in literally. Ah. I couldn't 100 times. I kept saying literally, and then I heard my friend the other day. She was telling me the same thing. I like it rings the bell right away. When I was there, I wouldn't even notice. But now if she would say like literally, I was like, oops. My ears is like hear it right away. But yeah, so I finally gave up. And I was like, okay, I just decide to like, give up, yeah, until you move back to California. Then you can. But yeah,
I
so
think though, when you do live in another place for a long, long time, you also naturally your speech changes. So
yeah.
because I was told every time I go back, I have some inflections, some British inflections, which
Hmm.
I can't hear. I hear me being very American. I don't think I've changed at all. My
Yeah.
close friends in the US have said, yes, we can hear slight change.
Yes. Yes.
And so I'm sure it's the same with you.
Yeah, I think I was speaking to my friend in Seattle, and I looked at it in the camera. I said, "Oh, you're in Seattle, or are you in California?"
Yes,
And she was like, "What?"
that's
Yeah,
it. It's the inflection.
I can't say Seattle. It was Seattle.
You have to tap the T's now. I know. When I
Yes.
say butter, and um sometimes it's a problem because some of the productions, like I said, that I'll audition for or do are for Americans, so I can't use butter. And I remember that
Good.
word was in, yeah, was in an audition. I could not for the life of me say butter. I kept saying butter, butter. It just came out as butter. And I thought,
but
you've got to stop tapping the T's, Shirley.
but the first time I heard about my husband, he was like, you want some butter in your butter?" I was like, Buta? Well, in Filipino, that's like blind. Buta. I was like, Buta. So now I teach my daughter, we're like, okay, it's gonna be butter, butter, butter.
Butter. Tell my mom, yeah.
Yeah, think a butter. It's so hilarious. When with all these, I wouldn't say the word unfair, but w- being treated as different or disliked because you are an American versus British who goes to America. Americans are very, wow, you're British. I know you're not. I heard this, but we don't treat them like, oh, they're this because they're British,
That's
right?
so true. But we love immigrants and we love
Hmm.
British accents, don't we? We love Irish, British, Italian. I mean, I can tell you, I had in the US, I had two French boyfriends. I cannot tell you how many times we'd go to a restaurant and my French boyfriend would say, I will have. I mean, the waitress would literally throw herself on the table and go, "Are you French?" I was sitting there going, "Hello, hello, he has a girlfriend. Hello." So,
Yeah.
um, when Alistair comes over, my partner now,
Mm-hmm.
um, I always would do what I call trot him out. I go, "Okay, okay, um, give everybody your British accent," because he's also very eloquent. Yes,
Hmm.
he speaks beautifully.
Hmm.
And he did a speech for my nephew's wedding
Hmm.
that just had them all enthralled.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, Americans, we love European accents most of the time.
Right. Or anybody actually. I feel like
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
it's America.
It's America, so we accept it because we know everybody is an immigrant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let alone Los Angeles, you know?
Yes.
Do you define yourself more of an immigrant or an expat?
Yeah, I know that the term expat is has fallen out of favor now, hasn't it? It's because
Mm,
everybody's pretty much an immigrant. I still call myself an expat.
mhm,
Um, I I don't know. I mean, I think just the inherent nature of the words or the way culture has used it over the years is immigrant. It has to do with a lower socioeconomic. Uh,
color,
exactly,
migrant workers or something like.
exactly. So, whereas expat, oh, you've chosen to move there. You have the funds to move there. You have the money behind you,
Mm,
right? So I think just because of the generation that I am, I consider myself an expat, but they're interchangeable to me. Immigrant, expat. Yeah. I don't, you can probably tell I don't go a lot on labels because I don't like that black and
mhm,
white.
mhm,
Nothing, the older I get, the more I see that it is shades of gray and
mhm,
there's no black and white. So I
mhm,
try not to define myself in those
mhm.
terms either.
Right. If there's anything, there are things that you said earlier that, you could study, you could learn, but it's really way different when you get there. But if there's anything, like if you could go back in time and redo your move to the UK, what would you like to do differently?
Um, Probably change my career choice
Mhm,
to something else that that would have translated better here in the UK. Uh, I'll tell you one thing I would have done. I would have, had I known Brexit was coming, I would have probably stayed in Italy longer just to get my citizenship and then moved here somehow,
mm,
just
okay.
so I could. I have British citizenship now,
Mhm.
but I want European citizenship, so it's a bit different.
Right.
I want the world, uh, not just the UK. I want the world. I want all of Europe.
Well, you
So
must have like three citizenships now.
I just have 2. I just have 2.
Well, you're
Um,
Filipino, aren't you?
yeah, but I don't have Filipino citizenship. Yeah.
You can still have it, maybe, because by virtue of the parent, because being a Filipino is not by where you were born, but
Oh, it is by the parents, so
yes,
they
yes,
recognize that. Oh, interesting. I'll actually look into that.
yes, there are benefits, especially if you have properties or planning to buy properties. But also, if you visit the country, you're not limited. Like if you have an American passport, you have to renew your visa for like after how many days, and you
Yeah.
have to pay. But if you have a Filipino passport, no, you can just go
Oh,
in and
wow.
out. Mhm.
Oh,
Yes,
wow. Okay, like, yeah, like other places. So,
yes, yes. Yeah, because my daughter is she has three now, British, Filipino, American. She tells that as well. I'm British, Filipino, American. Yeah. Well, for the listeners that or people who might be moving here, thinking of moving to the UK or already in the process of moving, what advice would you give them?
I would say be very, very sure that you want to move here because it isn't, yeah, it isn't all a bed of roses. Um, I do like living here a lot. But one of the things that I'd said earlier about, if you're going to live here and you're going to be here permanently, remember that your family, if that's important to you, is in the United States. And we're all getting older. And what is your plan for when they get older? Or, how will you support them? That's a really important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, the other is just I think it's a special person. It takes a special person to always move a country in the first place. You have to be really resilient. So I would say just dig deep down and ask yourself how resilient you really are, because there will be bad days, weeks, months that you think, and it's expensive. It's
Right. Yes.
extremely expensive to move here to this country.
Yeah. Which leads me to my other question: that how difficult was it to process all, and how long did it take as well?
To to move here? Do you mean to
Yes.
move here?
Right.
From
The immigration process.
Oh, because I moved 20 years ago, completely different. I moved on a spouse visa because I
Mm,
got married.
mm,
And back then, I think now it's 7 years. You get married, you have to then get a visa after 2 years, and then you have to get a visa after 5 years. Then you can think about citizenship. Back
mm,
then, it was just 2 years. A 2-year visa, after the 2-year visa, you could get citizenship. But I didn't get citizenship until last year,
mm,
because in the back of my head, I kept thinking, I don't know if I need it. I've got,
mm,
indefinite leave to remain.
mhm,
What good does it do?
mhm,
But then someone told me, which is true, you have indefinite leave to remain. The law
mm.
can always change. You don't
Yes.
have permanent leave to
Mm,
remain. And I went,
yes.
oh, yeah, that's quite true. Although
Yeah.
they wouldn't, but they might. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the world is a strange place nowadays. So I got my British citizenship last year. Also, because my mother is ill,
Mm-hmm.
um, I had to go back a couple of years ago for 5 months, I
Mm-hmm.
think it was. So, you can only be out of the country for a certain amount of time with a visa.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was much easier back then.
But there was no problem at all, like with process with the papers and any, right? Okay.
No, I didn't have any hiccups, I didn't have any hitches at all. It was easy.
Mm-hmm.
And even the citizenship was extremely easy because I'd been here already
Right.
19 years. So yeah, it was very easy. I got it very quickly.
Right. Um, I meant to ask you this earlier when we were talking about these what's the term, perception of being Americans and these Americanisms and stuff. Um, you could answer this or not, but I've asked all my guests about it, and they were pretty much straightforward. They said already what they wanted to say. But do you think that there is racism in the UK?
Oh, there is. Do I think there is racism in the UK? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Mm,
Um, I but I'll also ask you this, is there a country where there isn't racism?
exactly. What is racism
What is
anyway?
um what is racism? Yeah, I mean,
I think it's when you define a person from certain group or from a country, that as in general you generalize them. If you say Filipinos are this, but that's not true. Like sometimes there are descriptions of us that we ourselves laugh about it, but maybe not everybody would laugh about it. Some others would feel insulted about that. You would say like, oh, these Americans are like this. Oh, not all Americans are like, it's the same way as British. We can't define them as well as all the same. I think that's how that's racism.
exactly. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it's in every country in the world. Are they I guess maybe a question you're asking deeper is, are they more racist than Americans? I don't know. I mean, in general, also, I say that the British aren't as friendly, but my God, they are. I was just saying this to my partner. I wonder if there's a way to measure how much the British give as volunteers and how
Mhm,
much money they give to charities, because this has got to be one of the most compassionate countries
mhm.
in the world.
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
They volunteer for everything. They're right there if you need them. They
Mm,
give lots of money to charity.
mm.
So
Yeah.
in that respect, they're very kind gracious
Right.
people, the
The same
British.
thing as Americans. Americans are always, especially if you are that rich. When you are rich, that comes with power. America is very powerful, and then you're prone for criticism because people yeah, people would just get jealous. But to be honest, also Americans are very kind, and we give a lot.
No,
It's
absolutely.
even with Ukraine, for example, all other countries are helping, but the amount of help that America give is nothing compared to those small other countries have given. So I
Yeah.
guess it pretty much at the end of the day, it's just the same, really.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, people are the same all over the world, aren't they? I mean,
Mhm.
everybody just wants
Yeah.
to live. They want to raise their family in peace and quiet. They want to have friends and love. We're humans. We all want the same thing.
Mm.
It's these, it's these, I don't know. I don't know what changes all of us, but yeah,
Mhm.
we all just want the same things in the end.
Right. So to my very last question, or maybe just a comment, anything you would like to say that for anybody who are listening to us, is it all worth it that you moved to the UK, and would you encourage people to move if they are thinking about it?
Absolutely. If you can move, first of all, move. Move.
Mm,
You should be traveling like crazy because traveling, moving to another country opens your eyes.
mm,
It enriches you as a person. You learn more and you the biggest thing, humility. You learn how insignificant you really are, which is a good thing.
mm,
That doesn't mean it diminishes your power. If anything, it makes you feel that you're actually connected more to other people
mm, right.
because of it. So
Mm.
yes, I would always encourage people, especially the UK. Yeah, especially for all those things. Absolutely. I'm still here.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
still here. So
It's very good that you have assimilated and fitted in fine to the UK. Well, thank you so much for your time. But you said you are visiting your mother, right, in California pretty
yes,
soon. Well, thank you so much for your time for squeeze. I know you're very busy. You're probably packing already. But thank you for squeezing us your very busy schedule. But
thank you.
safe journey to California
Thank
and
you.
say hello to your mother. Hope
Oh,
you have
I
a good
will. So much for even asking me to be on here. It was great.
Yeah, of course. We love your story, and I hope that anybody will be listening. This is available in America as well, so your friends could get to listen to your story as well. And I'm sure a lot of the audience here would be able to get some lessons and maybe advices from you. And yeah, thank you so much, and have a good day. That's it for today. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in, for being with us today on this very Boxing Day, the 26th of December.
Till next Tuesday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon. For stories and suggestions, please email me at effiebarker@gmail.com. And please don't forget to follow and subscribe me on Facebook, Instagram, X, SoundCloud, Spotify, and my YouTube channel, Effie Barker. Happy Christmas, everyone, and a prosperous New Year!